All right, beautiful. Super excited for Leadership Academy today. We just off recording did a check of how many Facebook friends you have, the 3 questions we were discussing. And if you're watching the recording, I'm going to ask you to text me these numbers. Number 1 is how many Facebook friends have you added since Friday? So essentially since the summer kickoff conference. Number 2 is how many friends do you have total now? And number 3 is how many messages have you sent so far? And for some of you guys, the answer should be 0 for the next couple of weeks. Some of you guys, specifically, if you're over 1,500 friends, Facebook messaging starts sooner, right? And for some of you guys, we need to get you to 1,500 friends ASAP. Here's the next thing I want to go through. And I'm going to ask everybody who's live to answer here, and everybody who watches the recording, please text me your answer, a simple no or yes. Have you exported your friends list to an Excel spreadsheet? Nick?
No, not yet, but it's on my to-do list.
No. Yes, but
yes.
I need to update it.
So yes, and.
Oh, yeah, update too.
Okay, so just a reminder, like do that today, right? Today. And you should continue to do it. We've talked about this last week, but worst case scenario, heaven forbid, if your account from Facebook gets locked, they've been tighter on locking people out this year than in previous years, and you don't want to lose complete access to your list, right? So make sure you export that to an Excel spreadsheet, save it on a weekly basis. You should re-export it so you have a fresh version. And then again, the ideal is that you don't get locked out and we can Facebook message all summer. But the backup plan is that if you did get locked out, we could use Instagram. And Owen Trapp was posting today that he's already started his own messaging and he scheduled 10 people and it was 50-50. 5 of them were through Facebook, 5 of them were through Instagram, right? So that is very important. And you want to make sure that you do that today. And then we're going to be doing it on a weekly basis. Second thing is just a reminder to post content, right? The Facebook Jumpstart, it's very much like when you're a rep. If you get your customer to just give you names and numbers, but they don't make an introductory text, when you call their leads, you can book the appointments. And that's how we did it for years and years and years. But it was a tougher conversion because you had to name drop and build rapport and build a connection very fast, versus for those of you that have called referrals and experienced when the customer sent the text message, it's so easy. It's like, oh, it's you, hello, right? You're calling to book an appointment. The Facebook is very similar. If you don't post content, it's the colder lead. And your conversion ratio, when you send out your 50 messages, it's going to take you more messages to get one person scheduled. That was something Kayla experienced last year, right? Where she was like, man, I did the Facebook Jumpstart. I did everything so well, but I didn't get as many people from it as she wanted. And she did get some good people. A couple of her best ones that hit Dirty 30 were from the Facebook Jumpstart program. So she definitely got some value. Actually, I think about 20% of your office's sales.
Carissa and Danny.
Yeah, we're from Facebook Jumpstart.
Yeah,
but this year, she's like, I really want to convert more of these people. So if you're friends with Kayla, you'll see like she's constantly posting stuff. And I'll tell you,
at 2 a.m. in the morning,
especially at 2 a.m. in the morning. But we were talking about this earlier today. With a couple of managers, there's a couple ways you could do it, right? We were talking about how David was getting salty because he posts stuff on his page and then Heather was stealing it and just sharing his stuff. And she was getting more likes and comments on her post than him. And he's like, that's mine. Why? But David also posts a crap ton of stuff, right? I think there's a couple different ways you could go about it. At a minimum, just post one thing per day. Okay, something I've been doing. And my Facebook page is a little different. I don't use it for the Facebook Jumpstart, not my personal page. But I've been just practicing some of the skills. So I find like memes or funny stuff and I share it. Sometimes I find funny stuff and I'm like, I'm not posting this on my wall, but I text it to Kayla just in case you'd want to use it. Yeah, I'm looking out for you, girl. You don't post my stuff. Maybe I'll stop sending it to you. But I have funny stuff that I thought you might A, smile at yourself, and then B, find share worthy. But so far I haven't been share worthy, whatever. I've been trying though, looking out for you, girl. But anyway, in either case, you can literally just post one thing a day or two things a day. Not a big deal. I do think, I don't really understand all the details in Facebook's algorithms, but I do think that the more people that like your stuff or comment on your stuff, the more people it'll show it to, right? Because when you post something, your entire list doesn't see your post, right? I got you, Kayla. I'll come back to you. But I do think that the more people that like it and comment it, the more people it will show it to, because the algorithm says it's more relevant or whatever. You can do what Kayla and David do, where they just post a crap ton of stuff, essentially throwing mud at the wall to see what sticks. But I also don't know, right, how many people see your stuff. Does it show? Like, I see Kayla's stuff in my feed nonstop, probably because I like it, so Facebook shows it to me more. But I don't know, right? You could post 10 things and the same group of people see it. So I don't think there's anything wrong with posting a lot of stuff, but I don't know if that's the thing that's going to get you more value. Does that make sense? A second thing we talked about today was happy birthdays. We were active advertising this morning, and around 9:30 we took a break, and I sat down and started doing my reminder text for my interviews. And Heather said, "Hey, have you done your happy birthdays yet?" Right? And someone was like, "Yep, I already did mine this morning." And then a couple of people were like, "Oh, I'll do those now." So we sat down, took a break, and just as a team, right, I was doing my interview reminders, and everybody else was doing just happy birthdays. And we talked about last week, the easy, like, fast thing to do is just pull up your birthdays list and copy and paste a happy birthday and hit submit, and it goes to everybody. If you want to spend a little more time on it and make sure that your happy birthday is seen, send it as a message, right? So I've started doing that the past couple days, is sending it as a message, and almost 100% of the people that I've messaged happy birthday have personally responded, "Thank you," versus if you just post it on their wall, they like it and move on. All right, there's a couple different ways. But again, the two things to keep in mind is, number one, you want to make sure that your name, the real goal, like the objective of doing this, is that your name is relatable, that they see you when you get to messaging them, they're like, "I know this person," right? That's the real objective. So that's the first one. The second thing to think about is just how much time are you going to put in? I don't think that spending 2, 3, 4 hours at a time doing this is a great use of your time. I think there's too many other things that have a higher priority, right, than this. But this is important. But I know we talked last week, can you spend like a 30-minute block of time, right? Or 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at night. But I think that anything more than that, and you run into the danger of being busy but not actually being productive, right? So those are my thoughts. Kayla, I know you wanted to speak loudly so it comes up on the microphone.
Heck, what's that gonna say?
You're going to be on camera in a second.
Oh, okay, I remember. So as far as posting, also, I think I said this last week, but like posting on your story is a big thing too, because it always, like, at least like my people, is like, oh, so and so posted on their story and stuff, so it'll alert them, and then they'll go look on your story. It can be like something simple, like the last few days I've been just like posting like a quote of the day, like it's just super simple. Or workout pictures are fine too; those are easy. Dog pictures, of course, fine. Haven't done that in a while, so I need to do that. But yeah, so stuff that's like relatable but unique to you at the same time is totally fine for your story. But the story is a really good place because your top people are looking at your story.
Cool. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Lovely. So that's all I got on Facebook. Second thing is a reminder in terms of sales. The campaign ends on April 29th, and we are exactly $9,000 away from our target. It would mean the world to hit it. Any sales that you guys can bring in, whether it's new customers, reorders, gifts, means the world to the team. And also some of you guys still need some sales. You need some revenue. Just a reminder, for all of you guys, but the savings target is to be at $2,000 by May 1st. And obviously for the branches and districts, some of you guys have taken money out of your savings to pay rent. So that is factored in, but you want to have $2,000 in savings. Assistant managers, same, right? You guys need to be saving money as well. And one of the big things, right? We talked about this at our last Divisional Leadership Academy in the breakout, but one of the big things is that in the summer, all of you are going to get bigger paychecks than you've ever gotten before. And the worst thing, and I've seen this happen too many times, is when you start getting big paychecks and you don't have a good financial system in place, and you've been in a spot where you spend every dollar that you make. And, you know, there's lots of memes on the internet, and it's a meme because it's true, right? But there's this one funny one I saw recently, this dude like rapping in a car, and he's like on payday, and he's rapping and like throwing dollars, and the back seat is like loaded up with fast food. And then it's like Thursday before payday, and he's walking, right? Can't even be in the back seat anymore, apparently. And it's so true. And I know for me, when I was a branch manager, I was terrible with my money. I made huge paychecks. There was one day, in actually this watch I'm wearing right now, in hindsight, it was only a $400 watch, right? That's not like it's break the bank kind of number, but it was a $400 watch, you know, and I'd never owned a watch like that. At that point, I was wearing like a $5 pair of sunglasses, you know? And I was at the mall with my girlfriend at the time, and I was like, I want to set a contest for myself, like an end of summer contest, that if I hit a target, I'll buy myself something fancy. So we were at the mall looking, and then as I was shopping, I got a ton of calls for PDI, and my team sold like $10,000 in about 45 minutes. That was pretty exciting. You know, I made $2,500 in about 10 minutes or 45 minutes. It was awesome. It was really awesome. But I spent almost 20% of that money in one shot just by buying the damn watch today instead of doing what I had set out to do, you know, and I spent 20% of my income. And you have to realize, as a branch or a district manager, not all of the money in your paycheck is your money. Some of that money is your landlord. Some of that money is your recruiting assistant. Some of that money is your phone bill and your internet bill, you know, but I was in the spot where I spent 20% of my revenue, and I don't even know how much of my profit, but probably like, I'm not going to throw out a number because it'd be made up. But either way, right, I spent more than 20% of my profit in one shot just buying a piece of jewelry, which was unwise. I've seen assistant managers in the past where, especially, I mean, if you sell 10 to 20 grand personally and the office produces $300,000+, which is our low number, I've had assistant managers make 15 and 20 grand in the summer before, you know, and Bryce Zemer, when he did it, he spent his entire summer profit to pay his college tuition for the semester, which that was the initial plan. That was the initial plan, but he didn't also factor in saving money for himself. So he paid his tuition. Then he's like, oh shit, I don't have a whole lot of spending money for this semester. And he was feeling, and granted, you spend 15 to 20 grand on tuition, it's how you're going to feel no matter what. Right, but he forgot about personal expenses beyond, or just fund money, you know, beyond the initial tuition expense. I had an assistant manager who came to me and complained, I haven't made any money. And I was like, dude, you made $17,000 this summer. He goes, no, I didn't. And so we pulled up his commission statements, right? And I showed him, yeah, this has been your earnings. And he goes, well, I don't know where it all is. I'm like, man, that's really unfortunate, right? I had one assistant manager who did the same thing. He spent all of his money on his girlfriend and fast food, right? $15,000, by the way, 100% buying gifts and stuff for his girlfriend and fast food. And when we pulled up his credit card statements, that was literally like almost every single charge was one of those two things, and $15,000 was gone. So the reason we have you do the startup is to get you in the habit of saving now so that you've got good financial habits. Because at the end of summer, you're going to make a lot of money. The revenue will be high no matter what, right? No matter what. But it's not just how much did you make, right? It's how much do you have left over when the dust settles, because you're not going to make that kind of money every single week and every single campaign. And in sales, there's a saying that it's either feast or famine. That's not as accurate with Cutco, because with Cutco, you can turn it on and make sales anytime you want. But in the real estate market, right, it's very driven by the economy. So either the real estate market is hot and it's a seller's market, or it's not hot and it's a buyer's market. And real estate agents are in feast or famine, and they'll be in feast or famine for a year or more at a time. I think the 2008 real estate bubble, I think it was like 4 years of feast and they were just making tons of money. And then it was 4 years of famine and nobody was buying real estate at all, right? And that was an extreme example, car sales, it's that way, for sure. And with Cutco, with personal sales, you can turn it on anytime you want. But even still, you don't want to be in a spot where you're making like summertime money and spending it like that's every single week. You want to be frugal and saving that money so that it lasts you a really long time. And at the end of summer, you've got some options, whether it's paying for your college tuition in one check, or whether it's buying a new car, or investing in real estate, or paying for grad school or a course or an event. Or if it's just investing and opening up a Roth IRA and some of that stuff. But that's the reason for the startup, right? And some of you guys need to sell so that you can do that. The other thought I have on this, and I would ask you guys, write this one down, and I really want you to take this to heart. I've talked to a couple of managers recently who have gotten so excited for the summer that they start to have this focus on, oh, well, when the summer hits, or when the summer comes, or when we get to the summer.
Oh, dear God.
Is that you?
No, I'm saying this is just not a good idea.
It's not, right? Some people get so excited for the future that they forget about finishing what they started, right? We're in the spring campaign, and we didn't start the spring campaign with the mindset of, oh yeah, we'll work until April 15th, and then we'll take a 1 month hiatus, and then we'll start again. It's not what it's about. We got to finish what we started. So as a team, we've still got $9,000 to go. We've done a lot right. We're over $115,000 right now as a team, but we still got $9,000 to finish what we started. So all of those things combined, we need you guys to stay focused and stay present. And the honest truth, this also happens to district managers, by the way. When we were at the Pillar meeting, it was the same deal where everybody was like, oh, I'm going to be doing all this campus work and scheduling people for when they come home, and I'll be doing PRs and this stuff. And Earl Kelly made the comment. He's like, guys, I want you to have a big training seminar on May 16th. That's the first big one of the summer. He was like, I want you to have a big training seminar on May 16th. But if you really want to have a big training seminar on May 16th, it doesn't happen by scheduling a ton of people to start training on May 16th, right? He's like, the way you have a big May 16th is that you're recruiting people now. You're getting people scheduled for training today, that you're getting fresh PRs, that you're getting some reps in your team that become key staff members or assistant managers in training. And that is the way you build a strong start to the summer. For new managers, right, branches and districts that are opening up, it's your personal sales. When I opened up in 2013, you guys may or may not remember this. I haven't talked about it in a couple months, but when I opened up my district office in 2013, I was feeling totally unprepared. I was terrified, by the way, not what I planned on talking about, but if you're feeling terrified, good, right? Good. If you're feeling right now like, oh, I've got it, like all we need to do is flip the switch and I'm ready, you're in for a hurting because you got a blind spot somewhere, right? You should be feeling like, man, I'm nervous. And even for me, I'm feeling that to a degree right now. But when it was 2013 and I was opening up this office for the first time, I was feeling that a lot. I was like, man, I'm not ready. I'm putting out all this money for rent and we're moving our lives. And man, there's so much I'm not ready for. I wish I had a couple more months. Maybe I should take another year and just keep training in the Rockville office and open up next year. And we ended up having a $500,000 summer. Right? We ended up having a $500,000 summer. And there was so much that I did not do well, right? So much. My team was so big, which is good problems, right? My team was so big that we had standing room only for about a third of our team meetings for the summer. Where literally it was like you have to arrive 15 minutes early or you're not guaranteed a seat, right? There were so many people. I didn't talk to my team. I had like my core people that I either saw in 10X every morning or they would call me a lot, right? And I would talk to those people. And then the rest of my team, the other 224 people, that is the accurate number, by the way. The other 224 people, I saw them on Sunday at the PSP. I saw them on Wednesday at the team meeting, and that was it, right? My voicemail box, I would like empty it out every 2 days and not even listen to most of the voicemails because it was just too much. You know, my team genuinely didn't get managed, and yet we ended up selling $500,000, right? And I'll tell you, in 100% seriousness, I think there were two things that created that. The two things. I was talking to Carissa about it the other day. Number one, we had a hella good PR program, right? It was an amazing PR program. For the new managers, the branches and districts, you guys know what I'm talking about because we've been talking about it for a while. But my name collection was on point, right? Back then, it was a different era back then. But it used to be that 50 names in training was the standard, and I was averaging about 80, 85. Right now in 2019, those would be poo-poo numbers, but in 2013, that was actually really strong. It was about.
You guys had to write them out.
We had to write them physically on paper. Yep. So that was. I mean, we had name collection was strong. Our recruiting assistant or receptionist staffing, we were always staffed. We never had a single week where we didn't have enough receptionists or recruiting assistants working. So our PR program was tight, really tight. And because of the PR program, we recruited 244 people, which is the most that at that point in time had ever been recruited in this territory in a summer in history. All right, that was one. Number two was I personally had my best sales campaign ever. Right, that was it. I personally sold a crap ton of Cutco. Back in 2013, the virtual demo was brand new. Like it was the first couple months. It had only been introduced to the company that past November. And this was January I started doing it. And I'll be honest, at that point, I'd only done like 10 virtual demos ever, right? I'd made a couple sales on it, but I wasn't feeling really strong. And at that point, like the big move for the summer, and it's a totally different era, right? But the big move was, can you get 40% of your demos completed in your office to be virtual demos? And we used to track it on the phone jam tracker. When we put up your number, we'd have you cross like slash if you booked a face-to-face appointment, and we'd have you circle if you booked a virtual appointment. And we just did it so that at the end of the phone jam, the managers could say, I booked this many face-to-face, this many virtual, this many total, and we would look at the percentage. Right. And today's business, it doesn't matter. Like face-to-face, virtual, we sell the same either way. But that wasn't the case in 2013. And I remember for me, I was like, man, I've only done 10 of these. And now I'm expecting it to be 40% of my business. I didn't feel ready. Right. For all of you guys have that. Right. Might be Facebook Jumpstart, might be the new conveyor or the text to schedule, could be the recruiting assistant. Right. It's a different program, different years. But all of you guys have something for you that is to you what virtual demos was to me. Does that make sense? But even though I didn't feel ready, I had sold $25,000. I had gotten $10,000 in savings in 4 months. Right? Had some of my biggest days ever in my career. And as a result of that, I had ultimate conviction. When reps told me people don't buy Cutco or they couldn't afford it or, whatever objection, I was like, let me tell you how to handle that. Right? Heard that one myself. Let me tell you. Right? But if you're in a spot where you're not selling, your customer or your reps are going to tell you like, oh, they said this. And you'll be like, I'm so sorry. I heard that too. And I don't, you got to be selling. The more you sell personally, the more conviction you have coaching reps. And that applies to branches, districts, and assistants, right? But your personal sales matter for your income, for your confidence, for your momentum, and your sales. For those of you at summer kickoff and the assistant manager breakout, Kyle Preman, he made a really strong case for why your sales affect your team as well. So I'm asking you guys to help, number one, hit our team target, but also, to make sure you're bringing the fire for you as well. Let me pause there. Questions, thoughts, comments, reactions. We talked about Facebook Jumpstart. We talked about messaging updates, and we talked about the campaign ending. By the way, April 29th is the deadline. Any thoughts, questions, comments on any of that stuff so far?
One question I did have from before. Well, when I did it, I tried to transfer the names I had on Facebook to the Excel sheet, but normally when you copy and paste it, it's like scattered out, like including the picture. So I had to like go back in, like delete the picture on every single one. I just want to know if there was like an easier way to transfer your names to the list.
Cool. Becky's asking about transferring your names to the Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Kayla, is that something you can help with, or is that something I should refer her to the video for?
What did you say she did?
Like how you transferred your list.
You just copy and paste them?
Yeah, because then
No,
like
click.
flooded it. And it was just like
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That takes a little. Yeah, that's kind of.
Oh, okay. So it has to. Okay, never mind.
Cool.
I guess that takes time.
Sweet.
I wish there was
I'm not super familiar because I haven't done it personally, but I know that one of the hacks that can save you time is for text, right? If you're talking about pictures or whatever, I have no idea. But hopefully it's just like click, delete, and you're just like two buttons
Yeah, it's like
nonstop.
going back up.
For text, there's a button in Word or Pages under Edit. You go to Edit, and then it's something to the effect. I have Pages on my Mac. If you're on Word, it's something different. But it says Find or Find and Replace.
Oh, yes.
Okay. And you type in whatever text. So I know there's like a long string of text. I don't know exactly what it says, but it's like you've been friends with this person since or whatever. And you just literally type that in and replace it with something, right? And it'll literally take every single occurrence of you've been friends with this person since, and it'll replace it with whatever you say. So for text, you can like one button click and change out everything.
Okay. Because I'm using the Google Docs, and then it's just like I have to go back in and delete each
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, so I think Google Docs has it as well. Beautiful. Here's what I'd like to switch over to for all of you guys who are at the summer kickoff conference. I'd like to ask you for just one or two. Okay, I'm going to ask, I know there was a ton of stuff, a ton of messages. Don't give me one or two from every speaker, right? Or we'll be here until tomorrow and it's still not done. But if you can just like pick one or two where you're like, man, this either A, really resonated with me and lit a fire under my butt, or like, man, this is something that I learned and I need to take action on right away. What would that be for you?
Who's going first? Oh, I guess I already know the answer to that. I guess I would say for me, two things that really resonated with me. Definitely Kyle's ending speech, like his like wrap up at the end of the conference was really good. Just because like of the mindset that he had and like how competitive he is, and like I forget the number he said, but like chasing like a multiple $1,000,000 year, and then also him mentioning that one rep who's at like $250,000 of Cutco sold like right now, and that like one man is beating like multiple offices and stuff like that, which is pretty crazy. And then the second thing, I guess, is a mixture of Evelyn's cookware talk, just because it was great, and also JPB's like just whole talking about like closing rate and stuff like that, and like he was saying you shouldn't strive for the national average, you strive for like a $500 average order and like a 90% closing rate, which I was like, I mean, he's not wrong. So
cool. Yeah, don't strive to be mediocre. I love that. Cool. Thank you for sharing, Nick.
I would love to see your notes from those talks, by the way, but I'll text you about that.
Yeah, by the way,
Okay.
assistant managers, please share with branches and districts for their sales, and branches and districts, if you guys got anything that would be applicable to the assistants. I know some of it was and some of it wasn't, but sharing notes would be excellent. Cool. Kayla, what you got?
Before Kayla goes, can I just mention, just to make sure I don't forget, the National Summit is tomorrow. Like the National Virtual Summit is tomorrow at 6. So just so everyone knows that's signed up.
Cool. Thank you for the reminder.
got the email.
Yep.
One thing I got the email. This was said last year at kickoff, but I think it was like, obviously that's why he brought it up again. The story don't tab. Excuses don't tab, recruits tab. I don't really like that. I liked it last year, and I really like it. Still, again this year. And then, I don't remember this was a recruiting obsession talk, but getting curious about getting the answers and figuring it out now rather than later, and the fact that you should always know how many people you have set for training and interviews. Like, you should know your key results areas. Yeah, that was like the whole theme of the conference, is that like recruiting, which obviously.
Cool.
But yeah,
I want to add to that, by the way, because that also was my biggest takeaway. Number one, it hit me so hard that I wrote it in my notes, and then I also texted it to Carissa immediately. Al said, at the end of the summer, we're either going to have really good stories or we're going to have sales results. Stories don't tab. I was like, oh, hit my heart. On top of that same message, he said 3 things cause success in our business. And if you didn't get this at the conference, this is one like worth taking and making sure you got. 3 things cause success in our business. Number 1 is skill level. Number 2 is staffing. And number 3 is systems. Skill level, staffing, and systems. What that means, by the way, skill level is obviously your personal skill level. Staffing for the managers is how many recruiting assistants do you have, and is it the number that's in your plan, right? Number 3, systems like Office Conveyor. For managers, like office managers, it's Conveyor, it's your PR calling program, your active advertising program, even simple stuff that we've been working on all along, but like your interview, how good is that? Your training, how good is that? Those are your systems. For the assistant managers, some of that stuff is relevant to you, right? Some of it is your personal sales. Like, what's your system for getting enough names and numbers on your list? What's your system for booking your appointments, right? What's your system? How do you respond when you don't hit your target? But that hit me so freaking hard, because that genuinely is what it's all about, right? The other thing that Kayla mentioned is know your numbers, right? For the managers, your numbers, right? If you have a phone jam, it's how many reps were there, how many appointments did you book, what was the average, right? If you have a training seminar, what was your show percentage to training? What was your launch percentage to training? How many appointments per rep and how many PRs per rep, right? Those are your numbers. And then, of course, the biggest one that's on a daily basis is how many did you recruit for the day and how many PRs did you schedule for the day, right? But knowing your numbers and knowing if that number is good or not good, knowing how you're going to respond is huge. For the assistant managers, right, I've been driving this as much as my assistant managers today will let me, right, but constantly asking, how many demos did you book? How many demos are ahead of you, right? I've been asking for daily updates. How many of your appointments, how many were completed, and what were your results, right? Because the more you know your numbers, right now the numbers are kind of small, like 2, 3 appointments in a day. But when we get to the summer, like 5, 6, 7 appointments in a day is normal. And the more you get good at tracking your numbers when things are small, the better equipped you are for tracking them when they're big. So Kayla, I hope I didn't steal your thunder, but the same stuff that you said was the exact same stuff I had on my list. So thank you for sharing that.
And then one more thing, this wasn't necessarily like from like a talk specifically, but like during one of the breaks, like I was talking to like Shelby and stuff, we were setting up like our calls for the summer. And we were kind of just digging in on like what she talked about during her talk about how like all the top branch and district managers had like their scripts memorized, their key scripts, so like the PR talk, like the interview and all that stuff. And then we also talked about just like finding a person to like reach out to every week. So like that was one thing that I did, like just went around and like made sure to like network and stuff. Like I got a few people's numbers. Like I'm supposed to get a call with Gina Nappy sometime this week.
Fire.
So we talked just because we didn't have enough time to talk about what I wanted to talk about. So we were just like, okay, let's just get a call. But just
Thank
like,
you, Gina. Thank you, Gina.
but just being like, what's the word? I guess aggressive about like reaching out to people specifically and like not being afraid, because like that's something I didn't do last year. I didn't reach out to people outside of the division, and I feel like that was like definitely a big area of opportunity for me. So like I just like made that like something that I wanted to work on, like going into the conference and stuff like that.
Yeah. If I can add to that one too, some of you guys have heard before, your network is your net worth, right? The 5 people that you spend the most time with, if you take their income, add it all up, divide by 5, that's your income, right? If you're a student, take the 5 people you spend the most time with, take their GPAs, add them up, divide by 5, that's your GPA, right? One of the best ways to get yourself to the next level is to simply spend time with higher caliber people, you know? A thought on how to do that, because I know for me, right, and I know some of you guys identify as introverts, I certainly do. It's not my natural state to reach out to people, and I've been there before where like Kayla said, where I would only reach out to people that I was comfortable with or were in my zone. In some cases, I was reaching out to people who were producing at a lower level than me because I felt comfortable with them and I considered them my friends. And I've also had times where I'm like, I have my friends, that's great. But when it comes to influence, I want to make sure I'm getting influence from people that are at a higher level than me, you know? And the 2 ways to increase your network, and this is worth taking down because I don't think there's been any training on it. But number 1 is become a person of value yourself, right? If you're the person, just as an example, but if you're the person in school where you never contribute to the group project,
Oh gosh.
you never show up to the group meetings, you barely turn in your individual homework on time, and then you're trying to go to like the straight A student to get them to tutor you, God save your soul. Good luck, right? They're either going to charge you money or not want anything to do with you, right? Versus if you're a B student yourself and you're going to someone who in the class who's better than you asking for help, how much more likely is that person to help you? Right? You know, in the business, in any business, it's the same thing. You know, if you're someone who is not producing at all and you're trying to network with the Hall of Famers and the CSPs, you know, how much time are they going to give you if you're staying at the same level in sales and you've been there for months and months and months? You know, versus can you imagine if the person who sold $250,000 for the year to date, but his career sales were only $300,000, you know, and he's going up to the Hall of Famers who have sold $1 million plus, asking them for help, how much more likely is that person to get their time? Right? So one of the best ways to get attention and time from people that you respect is to produce yourself, right? And you don't need to be producing at the same level as them. You don't need to be producing there, but be someone who's making forward progress, right? So you're not just trying to talk to them, but you can show them like, hey, I'm moving forward and I want your influence. Man, they're so much more likely to give it, you know? The second practical, like implementable thing you can do is simply look at the sales report, right? Look at the sales report. This is something I confess I've gotten away from doing, but I used to do all the time. Is I would look at the top 10, depending on your level, right? When, especially April 30th, on Vector Connect, when you log in on the home screen, one of the things on the home screen shows the top 10 sales reps, the top 10 offices, and the top 10 CSPs in the nation for the week. And then on April 30th, it will also show the top 10 branches. And I believe it also shows the top 10 new districts. I could be wrong on new districts. It might just be offices, but it'll definitely show branches for sure. And something my original manager taught me was just go on Facebook and shoot all 10 of them a message, right? The top 10 every week, go on Facebook, shoot them all a message and ask them either for some tips or if you could get a 10-minute call them, right? And our company is way more open to sharing than any other company I've ever seen. You know, in some companies, it's like, well, I'm not going to tell you what I do or else you'll do it and then I get hurt, right? And Vector, that's not our culture. Our culture is, yeah, absolutely. I'll gladly help you. And, you know, you selling more isn't going to make me sell less, you know? But even still, there will be some people that you reach out to and they just don't respond. There will be some people that like, you know, I'd be happy to help, but I just don't have time. But what I found is if I message 10 people a week, consistently, I would get 1 or 2 or 3 every week that were happy to give me some tips. And in all honesty, I probably couldn't have handled more than 1 or 2 or 3 anyway, all right, without wasting my time. Because it does get to a point where you're learning too much and not doing enough. But 1 or 2 or 3 was perfect. So I love that Kayla was already at the conference picking, right? Who are the people that are producing at a high level? Shelby Wildgust is one, Gina Nappy's one. I'm sure there were others, right? She's like, I want to target my people and get on their radar now. I love that. If you didn't do that already, that's fine, right? We didn't expect that. But that is another way that you can do it. You don't need to wait until another conference like the kickoff to be able to do that stuff is what I want to communicate. You guys go with that?
Also pick an accountability buddy like outside of our division.
Love it.
So,
Love it. Michaela, I appreciate you sharing that. Fire. Good stuff. Thank you. I should have had you go last because I got all excited. Sorry. Becky and Kevin, who wants to go next?
I don't know. Well, 3 things that I picked from the
Do me a favor. Speak loud so it comes up on the microphone.
Okay. Well, 3 things I did pick from the conference. The first thing that kind of stuck with me, I believe Albert said it, but it was going with whenever you're discussing to whether it's your RA team or it's to your team, but whenever it comes to speaking of your mission, it was people can hear words, but they can read your mindset. That's what stuck to me. That's what stuck to me. So
elaborate on that one because that's good.
So it was like you can talk to anyone, you can read the script, but if you don't like put in the what's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
If you don't put like in the passion for it, and kind of like mean what you're saying. And it also goes with like selling cocoa too. Like if you don't believe in the product, it's harder to sell it because then you're just reading words. And so that's what actually stuck with me when it goes into like speaking to my team about like what my mission is here and like talking to your RA team and trying to like get them tied into your goals. But you know, you basically said just mean what you say. And so, and then the second thing I liked was I believe it was Shelby's breakout session, but she went over like planting the seed to your reps so that to the point where they ask you about key stuff. Mm-hmm. And like planning it so that they get curious and they want to like take the initiative to go into it. So I mean, I wasn't gonna spill all she said, but her part was actually did it.
Yeah.
But, and then the third thing
if I may, before you go on to the next one, to build a culture around anything, just say it all the time. Say it so much that your team ends up finishing your sentences, right?
That's actually funny because she actually said that.
Yeah. Yeah.
She said that. They should be like, she said that they should be like, I know.
Yeah, right. Bryce used to get so mad at me. He was like, you say the same stuff. Like, tell me something different and new. I hate it. It's so annoying, right? He's like, I've heard this before. And then he went out and he was the number 1 branch, right? Because he just did the shit that I said all the time. Forgive my language. The stuff that I said all the time, right? Just as an example. But that's how you build a culture. So I don't even know how much of this stuff we've done recently. Sometimes it works so well we stop doing it. But it used to be we'd get up on stage at a meeting and we'd be like DMD and the whole team would go MMC. Or no, MMC and then the whole team would go DMD. Right? Make more calls, do more demos. We used to have another one. It was talk is talk. And everybody else says CPO talks. Right? We had one where it says the path to getting promoted is paved. And the whole team would go in order forms. That was a fun one back when we had order forms. Loved it. The path to getting promoted is paved in order forms. But it's not really relevant if you don't have order forms. But friggin' love that stuff. So key staff is definitely one area where you can do that. And there's so freaking many. Actually, Owen Trapp in his office, he texted us recently. He said, I guess I have a team culture. Because I have a guy who finished training on Thursday and he texted Owen on Monday and said, I've added 400 new friends to my Facebook list and I sent 42 messages today waiting on responses to schedule interviews. And he's like, I haven't talked to this guy about Facebook Jumpstart. I haven't promoted it. He's freaking brand new. But apparently we have a team culture where that's a thing that people know exists.
That's lit.
That is lit.
Awesome.
So lit.
So lit. Also, that guy's
That's
going to the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I freaking love that, Becky. Thank you. For the sake of time, you did your 2.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pass the baton to Kevin.
So I'd like to talk. I can't remember what his name was, but he was talking about like banking and organization.
Yeah. The guy from Rising Stock.
Yeah, Rising Stock.
Wow.
And how?
Robert Gonzalez. Yes.
Yeah, my brother. Anyways.
Oh gosh.
Anyways. The thing that I found interesting is that he said that we should have like a checking account, and then it like cash flows into the bank or like a credit card, and then that's what he said, did he? That's what he said.
You know, like the chart where
He
you kinda-
did say he did say like a
Mhm.
office credit card. per
Yeah.
se. But it
He
doesn't
said that.
have to. Yeah.
Yeah,
Debit card.
I think he
Debit
was
card.
talking about it to build like credit and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
Yeah, I think he was talking more like if
I
you
didn't
were to
use
get
that. I
a
just used
card.
a separate account last year.
That's what I do now. Like he was saying, like if you want a credit card, he was giving ways.
You don't.
How to
Just, you
do
know,
low.
debit card. What was the thing?
The cool thing is with the credit card, you can get like miles and
No, never mind.
Stuff like
I
that.
don't care about his thing.
never mind.
I don't care about his thing.
But
Here's the
that
key
thing-
point
yeah.
is you're going to make I mentioned this earlier in a different way,
Mhm.
but you're going to make a ton of money this summer. But for the branches and the districts, not 100% of the money that you make is your money. Some of it is your business's money, and it needs to go to pay office rent and recruiting assistants and other stuff. So this isn't as relevant for the assistants, but for branches and districts, you should have 2 checking accounts, right? You have a business checking account that all of your money goes into, and then you have a separate checking account for your personal expenses. Number 1, by the way, this is important. It will make your taxes so much easier next year when you don't have your business expenses and personal expenses all in one checking account. It'll also make your bill that you pay your tax person a whole lot cheaper when they don't have to spend hours and hours separating the 2. But also it prevents you from spending all your money. All right, I put myself on a salary. As a district manager, I work on commission the same as you guys. But all of my revenue goes into my business checking. And then once a week, I write a check payable to John Godwin from my business account, and I deposit that in my personal account, right? And then what's nice about that is that even if my office, like I'm getting a check in a couple of weeks, it's going to be around $15,000 to $20,000, and I'm not going to go out and buy another Tesla yet. But I'll write myself a check for the exact same dollar amount I do every single week, and it prevents you from just blowing through your money. Does that make sense? It prevents you from blowing through your money, and it makes your tax time better. For the assistant managers, you guys should do something similar, where you put yourself on a salary, you have a budget, and you say, I'm going to live on this much. That way, when you get a check that's $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000, you don't go out and treat yourself into a $0 bank account, right? Kayla posted a status the other day that said, what is it? I had $500 in my bank account.
Nick commented on it. $697. Bills $597.
Yeah, right. And some on the personal level, like your quote unquote bills were spent at the tavern or spent at Express or spent at Banana Republic or spent at Chick-fil-A, right? Your quote unquote bills. But that is a thing that happens a lot. So when you get in a spot where you're like, I only need X amount of dollars to live per week, right? In some cases, in all honesty, for some of you guys, it might literally be $100 or $200 is all you need. So get in the habit of putting that amount of dollars in your bank account, regardless, and then anything over that, put it in a savings account, right? At the end of summer, when you've got $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 in your savings account, then would be a great time to think about what you're going to use that money for, right? But a saying that I love is don't waste your treasure buying trinkets, right? Don't waste your treasure buying trinkets at the end of the summer when you have a couple commas. That's the time to think about where your money's going to go, not coming to me like that one manager did. I didn't make $15,000. There's no way because I don't have it anymore. Ugh.
I know exactly who that is.
It's so many of them. It's more than one, but I know who you have in your head, and that's one of them.
I know you said it like months ago, but you said like live off of 40 but save 60.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said if you do it well enough, you can live off of 30 but save 70.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I thought of about that. So.
Yeah. Fire. Do you want to share another one?
Yeah,
I feel like I'm preaching right now.
Yeah, don't lose your sample kit.
Don't lose your sample
Oh,
kits.
your sample kit.
Lock your valuable stuff up. Very
And
important.
Also your food check.
I
Or like
didn't know that
checking
insurance doesn't cover if
checks.
you don't mark it.
Those two.
You said
Love
like,
it.
don't steal your sample kit. You lost them.
True.
Love it. Beautiful. Well, hey, I know we've only got about 25 minutes left. I want to cover a couple last things here. Number one is a reminder of our contest. So I'm going to put them up on the screen and also share my screen. Pow. Oh, actually, wait. I'm just going to run with what I got. I found out there's a better way to share my screen, but I'm already doing it this way, so we'll stick to it this way. So for the assistant managers, this has already started last week, and it goes up until June 17th. If you sell $5,000, you get a chance to win a $500 cash drawing. The cash drawings always, I think they're dumb, because if you're at 20% right now, A, you hit dirty 30, B, you make $300-$400, something like that, and you get a chance at $500 on top. Right? If you're already at dirty 30, you sell $5,000, you made $1,500. Come on, you don't even need the 500, and you get a chance to win 500. Come on, that's fire. You sell $10,000. A, even if you were at zero, which none of you guys could be, or you wouldn't be on this call, but if you were at zero, you'd hit dirty 30 and make $2,000. If you were already at 10,000, you'd put yourself at 20,000. You get your first monthly bonus. You make $3,000 in the process, and you get a chance, and you get 3 chances to win 500. That's stupid. You sell $15,000 and you win the region trip to the Bahamas. I know a couple of you have already told me, like, I want to sell $15,000, A, for the money, B, so I'm just in the trip and it's locked and loaded and done. And then if you sell $20,000, you win the trip plus an excursion. I don't know what that'll be, but there's a ton of fun stuff to do in the Bahamas. The water's gorgeous. There's RVing and ATVing.
Pigs.
They have pigs. I know one person will go play with the pigs. You might recruit some other people to join you. 2 people will go play with pigs. Got it. They also have stuff to do that's fun if you don't like pigs.
That is fun.
Like
No,
dolphins.
don't do that.
And dolphins. I know
Don't play me like
Kayla
that.
also loves dolphins.
Yes, I do.
So anyway, that is the Fast Start contest. It already started. So whatever you sold with last week's sales up until June 17th. Also, this is the trip to the Bahamas. By the way, just FYI, most of you guys at the kickoff conference already told you this, but number one, the Bahamas was the first trip I ever won as a district manager coming back to the business, opening up this location. That was the first trip I ever won. And at that point, I'm really pumped for the Bahamas just on a personal level, because some of you guys heard the story that when Carissa and I got married, we weren't in Vector, so we weren't making a lot of money. And literally, we took a day off from work, went to the courthouse, signed the papers that got us married, went to the MVA, got her name changed, and then went to dinner with her family, and that was our marriage. And then we were back at work the next day. All right. And we didn't take any kind of honeymoon. And then coming back to the business, I won the trip in the first couple months. We were at the Bahamas a couple months later, and we just were like, we're going to just consider that our honeymoon. So for us, we're really excited to go because there's some special memories for us. Plus, it's beautiful there. There's so much amazing stuff to do. All of us will eat conch together. Unless you're a vegan or a vegetarian, we're going to eat conch. Some of you guys are like, what's a conch? I'll show you. And it's amazing. It's the greatest food. Also, we're going to go to the place where they make the rum cakes. And the guy there knows us. And I'll introduce you to him. He's amazing. He's also like 12 feet tall. And he lives in a house where the ceiling is about 5 feet tall. And it's amazing. And we'll have rum cakes. And also, I have a mission personal mission to pet a cat in every country that I visit. So far, I've petted a cat in every country I've visited, including Jamaica. I petted like 6 of them in Jamaica. I had a little cat family. It was great. The only country I failed was Italy. The cats there are all feral. But I found all the cats in the Bahamas, and I'll introduce you if that's a thing you're into. It's definitely a thing I'm into. I'll tell you the story behind that another day. Anyway, here's how you win the trip to the Bahamas as an assistant manager and for our sales reps that are going to be starting this summer. Number 1 is build a team of 6 qualified PRs. Qualified just means they sold $1,000. Doesn't matter if they did it on one homemaker sale, 10 $100 sales, or anything in the middle. You get 6 friends, and they're going to the Bahamas. There's no sales requirement. And for those of you that this is your first summer in management, that is new. Last year, like, you personally had to sell a minimum of 10 grand, and I think it was 8 PRs. So they made it so much easier to win. It's foolishness. And our goal genuinely is to bring 100 people, right? When we went to Jamaica, we had to rent out a second hotel because we couldn't fit everybody in the hotel we wanted. And this year, we want the exact same experience, either to book the entire hotel, or if they have like 12 people who are not Vector, we're going to take over a second hotel. All right. So that one is friggin' stupid. And the Facebook Jumpstart ties into that. The team builder program we've been talking about ties into that. And all the people that you personally refer ties into that. Also, I just found this out. Maybe you guys knew this. I didn't know this. But the PRs that we launch this week and the PRs we launch next week count double. Meaning if you launch 1 PR this week, you've already got credit for 2. If you launch 2 PRs this week, you've got credit for 4. And if you launch 3 PRs in the next 2 weeks, if they sell $1,000, you're going to the Bahamas. Done. Yeah, that's foolish. I didn't know that was a thing. Maybe you guys knew it was a thing, but that's a thing that exists that for the assistant managers, you guys should take advantage of that. The second option is to build a team that sells $50,000 and your sales count. I talked to Landon, and his personal sales goal is 40 grand, right? Now he's trying to win it based on selling 15 grand personally by June 17th. Great, right? He also is actively working on the Facebook Jumpstart program. He could win it through the 6 PRs that sell 1,000. Great. Or if he sells 40,000 and then his PRs sell 10,000, right? Or any combination therein, go, right? Who's trying to make sure he goes for sure, or just personally sell 40 grand and you go. But all of those ways will get you there for 50%. And then if you want to go for free, personally sell 65 grand or build a team that sells 75 grand. Right? Either way will get you there. I will tell you, in my office, the most I've ever had an assistant manager sell in a summer was 66,945. Right? So if you sold 65 grand personal, that's doable, but you're coming up on an office record. You can do it. And I'd love to have someone challenge that record. But if you sell 10, 15, 20, 30, get a couple PRs that make up the difference, you go completely for free. So lots of ways to win for our assistant managers and our sales reps. And then for the branches and districts, I know you guys are excited about this. I'll just tell you, I have a personal bad habit where I just assume I'm going to win no matter what. So as a manager, like, I forget what the levels are.
That's literally how I won last year. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I got an email.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you won. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, like I literally
Forgot.
forget. I do this during every push too. I'm like, all right, I forgot that managers win prizes.
I think that's why I won.
Which is probably good. Yeah, because you don't get focused on your own success. But for managers, this should help you set your targets. So this starts now for the current managers, or for those of you that open, it starts literally the day you open up, and it goes up until June 17th. For the branches, $60,000 in sales by June 17th, or 25 PRs by June 17th. I'll give you a hint, by the way. If you do one, you're probably going to hit the other automatically. And if you want to do one, you probably need to do the other, if you guys are tracking with me on that. But for branches, it's 60 grand. And then for new district managers, it's 90 grand in sales for the same PR target. That's dumb.
Question:
For the districts, they should have.
sales, like, now count towards that, or
Yes.
okay, so not like after or up. Okay.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
what I thought,
personal
but
sales
okay.
count. For the new districts, I'm jealous. You guys didn't even have to increase your PR number. That's fire. That's fire. So there you go. And then I'll be there. Carissa will be there. There you go. So lots of ways to win the Bahamas. Oh, so pumped. Oh, the other thing I was going to tell you that Earl wanted me to share. The hotel just got a major renovation.
Oh.
Like major renovation. So I don't know if you guys remember the video they showed at the conference, but they said they had the option where they could either show the video of the unrenovated hotel, or they could show pictures of the hotel the way it is now. And they opted to show the video. So just, it was good enough as it was, but just know the hotel's even better now than it was in the video. So no. Also, all inclusive, which, as we found out in Jamaica, you guys are a big fan of the all inclusive. Here's the last thing I want to talk about, and I'm going to ask you guys. This is the only like teaching thing I'm giving, so I'm going to ask you to take some notes on this portion, please. But I want to talk about the month of May. Okay, historically, we call May the month of discouragement, and there's a couple reasons for that. Kayla, I don't know if we called it the month of discouragement
Yes,
when
you
you.
did.
Okay, good. I'm glad that we did.
I was
Do you remember?
discouraged too.
Yeah. Do you remember why May was the month of discouragement?
Not specifically. I mean, I would assume for branches.
I'll stop you there.
Just getting started.
I'll stop you there. That was the answer.
Okay.
The discouragement always fades. Okay. But I'll tell you, when I was a new manager, I was so frustrated. We were moving. I was moving my apartment and moving into my office. My office wasn't ready when I wanted to be in it. And I was trying to get a fast start. So like in April, my office lease started on May 1st. And in April, I was calling the landlord like, hey, can I use the office? Can I get in? And they were like, sure, you can start setting some stuff up. So I started interviewing receptionists in my office, and literally the back rooms were filled with just furniture and stuff that wasn't set up. The walls were completely bare except for one teeny little whiteboard on the wall behind me. It looked sketchy is what it looked. And I was interviewing receptionists, and then my landlord came by and he was like, hey, you're not supposed to be using the office yet. You need to get out or we're going to void your lease. And I was like, oh no, right? I don't want my lease voided on April 23rd. That would be upsetting.
Mhm.
But also I don't want to not have receptionists. What do I do? Right? So that was like super frustrating. I remember being so frustrated. I had to hire a team of 12 receptionists, which thank God you guys don't need to do that. And I was having a hard time. I got like 5 and then I needed 7 more. And I was like scrambling to get stuff. And I remember calling Kate. I was like, there's nobody. And she's like, John, there's people who want a job that pays more than minimum wage. Right. And I was like, I know, but where? It was so frustrating. I remember my first couple interviews. I had people that I was really excited to work with who either couldn't start training for like a couple of weeks, or my first training, I actually had an off show to training. I don't remember the numbers anymore, but I remember vividly my first training, I had a decent number of people scheduled and only 3 showed up. Right?
Mhm.
Super irritating. And I remember being frustrated and discouraged all the way through. And then it was awesome. Right? It was awesome. My first training class, of the 3 people that showed up, one was a 10K fast starter, right? Broke my personal fast start record of people I'd ever trained ever in my first training seminar. And then the second week, I had an $8,000 fast starter and a $6,000 fast starter. And then in the third week, I got Ben Howard.
Wow.
I still have pictures of Ben Howard as a baby rep in his initial training, which is adorable. So cute. And then we were off to the races from there. But man, those first 3 weeks, killer, right? Every summer, it's been something, right? Sometimes it's receptionists, sometimes it's assistant managers or branch managers or something. But every summer has had its fair share of challenges. And the biggest reason for that, and this is the thing worth being aware of, it's going to be for all of you, by the way, but there's 2 reasons for it, 2.5 reasons for it. Number one is that we're literally trying to build something from nothing, right? The new managers, I mean, you guys are talking about 100,000 or 200,000 or more. You're talking about winning the Bahamas and Paris, and you don't have an office right now, right? You're trying to create something from nothing, and you can do that. You will do that. But there will come a time when there's a disconnect between what you have and what you're building, and it gets really discouraging, you know? I remember my first team meeting as a branch. I spent so much time in the interview and training talking about what we're building and how good it's going to be and championship office and all those things. And my first team meeting, the only people there were the people that just finished training. And they came in. And one of the guys, I remember this so vividly, he was the guy that sold the first homemaker ever as an office manager, my first homemaker ever. His name was Mike. And he came in, he's like, yeah, where's the rest of the team? And I was like, you're it. And he's like, what do you mean I'm it? And I was like, you're the team. We're going to have more, but right now, you're the team. And he's like, I don't understand. And I was like, we've been open for a week, bro. Give me your PRs. Actually, I didn't have that conversation because we didn't have PRs back then. It is mostly true. More true than not true. Anyway. But there's that disconnect between what you're building and what you're going to have and what you currently have. Right. And that can play mental games with you. Like, even if it's where you're supposed to be and it's working out the way it's supposed to go, mentally, your brain will tell you it's not good enough. Right. Just like when you're working out, and you're exactly where you need to be, but you feel too tired to keep going. Same exact thing, for the athletes, when you feel like you need to start walking, even though the game isn't over yet, same exact thing. The other reason that it's the month of discouragement is that we front load how hard we work. We work harder in the month of May than any other month, right? And even for me, I was at University of Maryland College Park today at 7 a.m. We were at University of Maryland College Park for 4.5 hours. That's already half a work day. Didn't go home, right? Called my wife in the car and she's like, you coming home? No, straight to the office. And I was my own recruiting assistant. I've been scheduling interviews for campus recruits. I'm running leadership. I ran an interview. I ran a phone interview. I have, after this is over, I'm doing another phone interview and I need to schedule 9 more interviews today. And the target is probably to do more than that. And I have a list right now of about 1,500 people to reach out to about being a new applicant. I have 10 people to reach out to about being returning reps for the summer. I've got 6 people to reach out to about being recruiting assistants. And I don't know how I'm going to get it all done, right? The interesting thing, so there's 2.5 things. The money doesn't really come in May, right? Even for me, I'm working as hard as I'm working, and our team sold $1,000 last week. I personally sold 504 of it, by the way. So I was more than half of our sales report. Also, we have $9,000 to go, so I'm just going to leave that there, right? But the money doesn't come in May. The money comes in June and July, right? So we work really hard in May for little money, but if we don't work hard in May, the money doesn't come in June and July. Right? So it's not like being an employee where you get paid by the hour. It's how much can I create in May? And I get the delayed gratification, but the paychecks are bigger in June and July. And your paychecks will be bigger than any of your friends, but you have to get through May 1st. For the new managers, it's even more because you pay, like Kevin and Kayla both just wrote their checks for first month's rent and security deposit in their offices. Kevin also just wrote a check for first month's rent and security deposit for an apartment, right? Like liquidated his startup.
That was fun.
Yeah. And then he's like, great, now I need to figure out, right, how do I start getting something going, right? But the big checks won't come for another 2-3 weeks. That's why we have company startup, by the way, to help bridge the gap. But that is another part of it. Does that make sense? And you just have to realize that, hey, you can work as hard as you're working. Even if you don't get immediate results, there is a value in delayed gratification, okay? However, there are some things we can do to get off to a fast start. And I'm going to run through a short hit list. We only have 8 minutes left. I'm going to do this quickly, but I'm going to give you a couple of things you can do to get off to a fast start. Number 1 is hire your recruiting assistants ASAP. For the branches and the districts, you can post an ad on Craigslist, depending on your territory. I have an ad, by the way, so if that's a thing you want to do, just send me an email requesting it, and I've got an ad already typed out, okay? Now, for some of you, posting an ad on Craigslist is free. For some of you, posting an ad on Craigslist costs $25, right? That's up to you. But if that's a thing you want to do, email me. I've already got the ad. I'll just send it to you. Okay. I've seen a lot of people where they're just posting on their Facebook an ad for receptionists or recruiting assistants, excuse me. Right? If you want to do a Facebook post for it, send an email to Courtney, right? Or just at her in the group mate or text her, whatever. But Courtney can give you her recruiting assistant Facebook post. And for those of you that have the Facebook Jumpstart, the same people that we want to be reps are the same people we'd want, and the people that respond to that, wonderful. For the assistant managers, I would ask you guys to do the same thing. Post something on your Facebook, and if you can get us a couple candidates, that would be super helpful for our office. I'm in my office looking to hire 5, and I've got 2 locked down so far, so I still have 3 openings to fill. So for the assistant managers, your help with a Facebook post for recruiting assistants would be super helpful. Number 2, Facebook Jumpstart. And we've been talking about this for literally months at this point. But the Facebook Jumpstart program will help you get off to a faster start. In some of your guys' cases, between a combination of the Facebook Jumpstart and doing phone interviews, you will literally accelerate your office opening by 2 weeks, right? I talked about this, forget when, but a while back, when in the old school system, used to be as a branch manager, you'd finish up with your finals. Your first week, you would spend just, excuse me, setting up your office and hiring receptionists. By the way, we call them recruiting assistants now because it's literally a different job. They're not receptionists anymore. Back then, hiring receptionists. Your second week, you would do your first interviews for sales reps ever. And then your third week, you'd have your first training seminar. And your first training seminar was usually really small, just a handful of people. And then you started building momentum from there, right? And it took a solid, literally 3 to 4 weeks to start creating any kind of sales that you would get paid on. And you were living on startup fumes for those first 3 or 4 weeks. But now, with the phone interview and the Facebook Jumpstart program, you can literally have people applying for the job and doing interviews before you even physically get to your territory. And you can run your first training within 1 week of being there and literally, A, shave 2 weeks off of the starving artist phase, B, add 2 weeks to your summer sales. Friggin' fire. All right, but the Facebook Jumpstart program, massive. Number 3, something that I'm doing this in my office and all of the branches and districts should be doing is texting past reps about returning. I believe that Kate has already shared a document with you that has all the past reps from your territory. If she hasn't, send her an email and request it. She has it. And we have a text script for you. And I would literally just send a text to every single past rep who's over $1,000 in sales and invite them to come back. 4th one, I don't know if this is going to be relevant to all of you or not, but I'd encourage you to take it down and see. I know for my office we're going to do this, but for the new offices, I don't know if you have access to this or not. But I'm going to reach out to every single no-show to an interview or training from last summer. I'm also going to do it for the winter break. But again, for the new offices, the winter break isn't relevant to you. But last summer, for sure. But we're going to pull up all of the no-shows to training and interview and just send them a text and invite them to reapply. And then the last one is your personal sales. I keep coming back to it because genuinely it probably is the single most valuable thing you can do that has more impact than anything else you could do, is personally selling Cutco for the next couple of weeks, finishing strong, getting some cash in your pocket. So I'm going to leave you with a quick hit list of what to be working on right now. And then I will end the recording, but I'll stay on if anybody has Q&A. Okay, so this is the exact same list from last week. But I know last week we had the summer kickoff conference and some of you guys maybe got started on some stuff and then didn't finish. I know for sure no one finished the list, and that's okay for the summer kickoff conference week. But now, if you didn't do it yet, like there's some areas where it's like, man, I need to do it now, right? But by next Tuesday, you guys should all have the list finished. So for assistant managers, number one is Facebook Jumpstart. Right? There's an urgency to get to 1,500 friends ASAP. Number two, this is my fault for not sending. Actually, no, it's not. It's not. Courtney did it. I was going to send out a form, and then Courtney did it for us. So I appreciate Courtney. In the GroupMe, I will resend the link out. But in the GroupMe, Courtney posted a Google form where you can put your team builder list, and you want to personally recommend on top of or separate from your Facebook Jumpstart people, you want to recommend 20 plus people from your own contact list. We talked last week about they can be people that you recommended last summer that it didn't work out, or people that you've met since last summer, but the team builder list is huge. Go to the Bahamas. Number three is the assistant manager application. And then number four, this is a bonus, but if you add 10 names to your customer list, that would be big, right? For the branch and the district managers, number one, Facebook Jumpstart. Number two is get your business plan done. Just get it done. Done is better than perfect at this point. Actually, done is better than perfect always. But if you're agonizing over it and there's like one section, just done is better than perfect. But get that off your plate. In all honesty, business plans are great, but they make you $0, right? One thing I've learned is that what the business plan is good for is helping you think critically about your summer. Like, ooh, what am I going to do to drive phone jams? Ooh, what am I going to do to get PRs? Ooh, what am I going to do? They're great for that. They're great for helping you get your systems. But at the end of the day, your business plan will make you $0. Right? So at this point, just get it done, make some decisions. If there's something where it's like, man, I really need help on this, ask, but just be done with it and get it off your plate so you can focus on income producing activities. Number three is a reminder of the 6 skills that you don't need to be great at, but you just can't suck at. Number one is the interview. Number two is the key training talks. And for the 2-day training, I would say there's only 4, not 6. 2 of them on day 1, 2 of them on day 2 for those key training talks. Number 3 is how to run a sales meeting. Number 4 is social media, i.e. Facebook Jumpstart. 5 is creating demos, which is PDI and phone jams. And 6 is something else. I don't remember it offhand. If you remember it, wonderful. If you don't remember it, it's in your notes. We've covered it several times. It's also the entire Leadership Academy syllabus has been centered around it, and find out what it is and then don't suck at it. But I gave you 5 out of the 6 from memory. Yeah, sorry, that was not a strong finish. Forgive me. And then the last one is for branches and districts. It's both sales and also startup. Sales and also startup. So that said, it's 4:46. I'm sorry we've been a minute late, but also I'm glad we covered as much as we did in such a short period of time. So I will go ahead and stop it there out of respect for your time. But if you have questions, I am more than happy to stick around. Just a reminder for those of you watching the recording, please text me the stats that I asked for at the beginning. And if you have questions following up on this, you are welcome to reach out to me as well. So I'm going to stop the recording here. I appreciate you guys. See you.